Hello everyone. Welcome to this explanation part of the TPA session that we just did, the quiz that we just did. And I'm Piyush from GMAT Quiz. I'll help you understand how to not just solve the 8 hard TPA questions that we just did. I'll also help you understand a lot more things around TPA that you need to keep in mind, which will not just help you with this 8 questions, but even a lot of other TPA questions that could possibly trouble you on the GMAT. And I'll try and my best to help you understand what kind of traps are set in TPA, what kind of skills you need to develop to avoid those traps, and those kind of things as well. So stay tuned with me till the end of the session to get some great insights as to how can you master TPA in general. Like again, we have limited questions that we'll use for that, but I'll try my best to share as much information as possible around TPA as well. Okay, so without any further ado, a quick introduction about myself. Those of you who don't know me, I am Piyush Beriwala. I'm the co-founder of GMAT Quiz, and I have 11 years of experience mentoring students targeting B schools across the globe. I help people with their GMAT prep as well as their applications. You think of a B school across the globe, whether it is Harvard, Stanford, MIT, INSEAD, Kellogg, ISB in India, or the IIMs. I've definitely sent some students to all the schools across the globe. Most of the schools, yeah, right, tier 1 schools. So I've myself prepared for and I taught for both CAT and GMAT. I scored a 740 on the GMAT and 99.9 percentile on CAT. And personally, I like analyzing trends and come up with strategies. So that's what I like doing personally. Like, and you'll see a lot of those strategies as well in the discussion today during the explanation part. But before I get on to the questions and the solutions to those questions, obviously we will discuss that in depth, but I want to focus on the key skills that are tested on a two-part analysis question, because in my opinion, two-part analysis and MSR are the most complicated question types that are there in the GMAT DI section. Now, TPA I feel is slightly more complex because in a MSR at least you have several questions, right? You have 3 questions in a set. So if you actually spend time on understanding the data set, understanding the MSR construct, you have 3 questions where you can actually spare the time and actually get the answers and get the time averaged out somehow. But in TPA, you have only 1 question to deal with in a particular set. So obviously it is more demanding in that sense, in my experience. Now, what are the skills that are tested on TPA? The first and foremost thing, very, very critical, and this is one of the biggest reasons why people basically make mistakes. And I'm telling you this from my experience of helping people increase their DI scores crazily. I've worked with people who have improved their DI score from a 78 to a 87. And then just for context, 78 is around the 75th percentile, and the like 87 is around 99.5 percentile score. So I have helped people improve from that lower percentile to a very high percentile. And from my experience, what I've seen with these students who have improved their scores is that they have changed their game around focused reading. They started reading with much more focus and attention. Okay, it's very important in TPA that you do not read in a rush. A lot of people read questions in a rush because they want to actually have time for solving, but that's exactly opposite of what you should be doing. If you understand understand the construct and the question stem very well, you will automatically end up solving questions really fast. Focus reading, drawing inferences early. Okay, Omkar, the session is still going on. I'm not sure why you're not able to see it. Possibly try to rejoin, maybe like just refresh the page. It should work out. And I hope my audio is all clear to all of you. If some of you can say yes, I'm just seeing people live, so I'm just assuming my video is going on and all of you can hear me well. But if you can say yes, we can hear you, any one of you, that is good enough for me. Okay, so coming back to it, the second skill which is very important is drawing inferences early, and focus on the keyword early. Don't wait to read the entire prompt in the question and then start drawing the inferences. That's a very wrong strategy. If you really want to do well on TPA, draw the inferences early. The earlier you draw inferences before you get like even to the end of the question, possibly, the better it is for you. The lesser time you will take to solve the question in the end. And always strategize before you solve. It is very, very critical that you have to strategize before you start solving the question. In a TPA question also, many a times you might just blindly go, and there are a lot of estimation questions in TPA. So you might just blindly go and try each option without having any strategy in place. And trust me, I've seen my students burn 4 or 5 minutes doing that. On the other hand, had they strategized, they would have saved and done that same question in maybe 40 seconds or a minute, like after reading part, obviously. So strategizing before you start solving is very, very critical. And similarly, conceptual clarity, a very important skill. There are so many quant underlying concepts or critical reasoning concepts that are tested in TPA. You need to be aware of those as well. Okay. So in short, I would always say, and this is to you also, Ravneet. Ravneet is saying, I have always a problem managing the time in DI. Trust me, Ravneet, if you do a survey on GMAT Club and ask people how many of them face a challenge with managing time in data insights, almost 99.9% people will say yes. That's what happens with most of the people. So it's a very common problem. It's not something new. But what you need to understand in the data insights section is if you focus on the first 15 questions properly in data insights and do well on them, you can actually get a very high score. Again, I've done a very detailed video on a test taking strategy part of like GMAT, where I've talked about this at length. I'll try to give you the link in between when I have the time, if I get the time. Otherwise, you can find that video. It is a 4 or 5 month old video on GMAT Club itself, and go through it. It will help you immensely in managing your time. But yes, just as a disclaimer, when I say 15 questions, first 15 questions you get them right, just by thinking it, you will get them right, will not get you the questions right. You need to build the right strategies. I'm not saying you should spend extra time on the first 15. All I'm saying is you should not cut corners on the first 15 questions in DI. Okay, do give the questions the time that they deserve. Don't overthink. Overthinking is worse than let's say cutting corners. So don't cut corners, don't overthink. Just make sure you focus on properly on those questions, and please make sure you build the strategies and skills required for it. I'll talk about those skills as well. But the line that you see in the center is very, very important, guys. Focus on that. The fastest way to solve a TPA is to go slow. If you're ready to go slow with the question, trust me, you'll solve the TPA in the fastest time. Okay. So enough of the strategies. Let's get into the questions. Let's start with the very first question that we had. Now, this was a non-math question. I would say a critical reasoning question, somewhat similar to that. Let's go through it. Slightly straightforward, but let's still go through it very quickly. So Leo is saying that transitioning from traditional light bulbs to LED bulbs. Okay, so he's trying to talk about transition from traditional bulbs to LED bulbs, and he's comparing on certain categories. Okay, he's saying that traditional bulbs and LEDs can greatly reduce energy consumption. So I always recommend my students to kind of write that information in TPA. It's very important to visually represent the information as far as possible. So if you can visually represent the information, it just helps you a lot more in solving the question. So what I'll do is I'll just do it in a fresh page itself. So traditional bulbs and LED bulbs. So Leo says that energy consumption is low, okay, in LED bulbs. Obviously, it is higher here, okay, and lower electricity bills. So electricity bills is also higher here, lower here. These are statements as per Leo. Okay, many countries, including Germany, have seen significant improvement in energy efficiency and cost savings by making widespread changes to LED lighting in both residential and commercial sectors. So he is giving an example via Germany that this is something which can happen. He's taking an example of Germany and substantiating that claim. Improvements that show how broadly suitable LED technology is for modern lighting needs. So he's taking a specific example and then he's generalizing that, saying that broadly suitable, that LED is broadly suitable technology for modern lighting needs. So he's taking one specific example to generalize things. Again, that's another concept in CR. It's testing on that particular aspect as well. Now let's go to Samantha. What is Samantha saying? Samantha is saying, while LED bulbs are more energy efficient, so she is saying energy consumption for LED is low and this is high. So she is agreeing to that part, right? So they both agree to this at least. And they are not the ideal choice for all lighting needs. Their upfront cost can be high. So she talks about upfront cost. So they are saying, she's saying that this is low and this is high. Their light quality can vary, and the success of adoption in Germany may not apply equally in countries with different energy usage patterns or economic conditions. So she is clearly not agreeing with this generalization that LED can work everywhere. So she's saying that just because it worked in Germany doesn't mean it will work across the board. That's what the understanding is. Now the question is asking us, based on views expressed, select for agree, which both agree, and disagree where they disagree. So you can clearly see that both of them agree that energy consumption of LED is lower, but definitely they disagree on the fact that LED can be used across the place. So, and if you look at the answers, they are the answers. So if you look at this one, LED bulbs are more energy efficient than traditional light bulbs. Both of them agree on that particular part, right? We have already inferred that from the statement. And if you look at this part, LED bulbs are broadly effective for lighting needs, regardless of geography or specific sector usage. That is where they disagree. Leo thinks it is possible to do LED transition, and Samantha says it's not like same across the globe. You cannot generalize it, right? So if you focus on understanding, in my opinion, I find the critical reasoning questions to be the easiest in TPA, because everything that you need to know is there, and generally they don't arm twist you a lot in critical reasoning questions or like verbal type of questions. I would say non-math questions can be further decided, like divided into two categories. Once those are like purely verbal questions like this one, and then there are questions which are more logic, puzzles, combination questions, conditional questions like those. So we'll discuss those questions also, but I generally find the critical reasoning questions to be more straightforward if you just focus on reading and understanding the entire context well. Okay, so let's move to the question number 2. Now this is the first math related TPA that we'll do. So we have 4 math related, 4 non-math related in equal balance, which is generally the case in the GMAT as well. You see around 4 TPA questions, and it's generally split equally between the two. So let's get into this. So it says a government project involves laying electrical cables between a national grid and a town being newly established. Okay, so it's talking about some cables being laid between a place to another. The total length of the wire needed in this project has to be estimated for 500 miles. Okay, so total length of the wire is to be for 500 miles. Okay, let's read further. The cost of wire used is directly proportional. So the cost is directly proportional to the volume. Okay, now that is what is given to me. So if the volume is higher, cost is going to be higher. The shape of the wire is of a long, thin, slender. Okay, now you might think this is a geometry question, and is geometry being tested on GMAT? My answer is yes and no. Like I say yes because conceptually it is tested, but they don't expect you to know any geometry formulas, and which is the case in this question as well. They will give you any formula which is required to be used, so it ends up becoming just like another problem solving question or any other question. You just need to use your understanding of problem solving to solve the question. Everything else will be there in front of you. So don't be bothered about geometry at all. Okay, let's look at what is there in the question. Volume of a cylinder is pi r square L, where r is the radius of the cylinder and L is its length. Pi, all of you know most likely that is 3.14 or approximately, or 22/7. That's what pi basically is. It's a constant term. So volume is basically pi r square L, and the project has received 3 bids, it says, from a wire manufacturing companies A, B, and C. The radii of the wires, ratio of the radii of the wires used by the 3 companies is 2, 3, and 4. Okay, that's the radii ratio. Now, if that is the ratio of the radii, then I can say they are 2K, 3K, and 4K. Ratio of the prices per unit volume. Price per unit volume is 3M, 2M, and M. 3:2:1, right? So that is the ratio of price per unit volume. Now, if you notice, in all these cases, the length given is the same, right? That's 500 meters. Now, they are saying that the bid by the company A is $240,000. Now, if you notice, what is the total cost going to be? Total cost is proportional to volume, and volume is pi r square L, where pi is constant, length is constant in the sense it's same for all the wires. So if it is same for all the wires, the only thing that varies is your value of R and the unit price per volume. So if you notice, if I can say that volume R is 2K, radii for cable A, company A is 2K, then R square would be 4K squared. Okay, And pi and L are going to be the same multiplied with 3m. So if you notice, this entire entity is going to be 12 pi m k square L. Okay. Now this thing pi m k square L is a constant, and I can replace that with a big constant, let's say capital K. Correct? So if you do it this way, again, you will notice that this is going to be 12k. This one is going to be 9 into 2, 18k. And this one is going to be your capital K, okay, not small k, please remember. And this one is going to be 16k. Now, just for your learning purpose, I've showed you the entire calculation here for company A. But in reality, those of you understand the concept of proportionality very well, they will not need to do these calculations. They will understand that pi and L are constant. The things that are varying are basically the radius, and the price per unit. So all you need to do is square the first ratio, which is 2:3:4, and that will become 4, 9, and 16. And then multiply that with the second ratio, 3:2:1. And you will get the ratio of cost as 12k, 18k, and 16k total cost. Okay. So that's the total cost ratio. Now, all they're telling me in this question is that the cost for company A, the bid is 240,000. Now that is equal to 12k. So if 12k is 240,000, I know my k is $20,000. Okay, so if k is $20,000, 18k is going to be $360,000, and 16k is going to be $320,000. So that is what my answer in this case is. Okay, 360 and 320. That's it. So it's a straightforward question if you apply your understanding of ratios. Again, those of you who understand proportionality well will not face any challenges with this question, will be a cakewalk. So a lot of these TPA questions will test your conceptual clarity as well. So again, conceptual clarity, as I said, it's a very important skill. You need to know that, and we'll see the application of this further in the questions that we do. Okay, in fact, in this one as well, if you actually have a strong conceptual clarity of the concept of ratios, you will actually find this easier. Okay, so just give me 1 second, guys. I'll just sip some water. Just be back in a second. All right, guys, I'm back. So let's get to this one. Now, this is another non-math question. Let's see what it says. Ali, Wahida, Yali, and Jack. Again, I don't want to remember the entire name, so I'll just write the initial letters. So they are talking about these 4 people stay in the same house. Ali is 3 times older than Yali. Okay, so E is 3 times older than Yali. That means the ratio, the age ratio of their ages is 3 and 1. I don't want to write in an equation form. I can write it like E is equal to 3y, but I don't want to complicate things for myself. I'll just write down the ratio for now. Okay, Jack is half the age of Wahida. Jack is half the age of Wahida means Wahida is twice the age of Jack, right? So their ratio is 2:1. And please understand, guys, I have written them in separate row because these 2 ratios are not the same. I'm not saying the ratio of E, W, Y, and Z is 3:1:1. No, E is to Y is 3:1. Let me put a sign if you want to here. And Y is to Z is Z as in Z is 2:1. Okay, there are 2 different ratios. That's what is given to me. Now, the question is asking me select correct and incorrect for what can be definitely concluded to be correct and incorrect irrespectively. Now, in these questions, guys, I recommend very, very strongly, and please mark my words, guys. It's a very important tip for you. You should not go blindly into the options and start thinking whether these are correct or incorrect, because you can get the answer by doing that, but there is a possibility of you getting confused, you spending unnecessary extra time by doing that. So it's always better that before you go to the options, at least draw certain kind of inferences on your own end. Now, there's one more piece of information which I forgot to speak about, is given is Yali is older than Jack. Okay, so Yali is older than Zach. That is given to me. Now, based on this information, one thing that I can definitely understand is that they are definitely not equal. And if it is not equal, Zach's value is lower than Yali means Yali could be, if I compare this is 1, if I talk about the ratio of Zach and Yeli, it is going to be 1.0001 to 1 or anything, but the value of y has to be greater than 1, right? So y is definitely greater than 1 if I bring all of them in the same scale. So if I bring all of them in the same scale, that means the value of y is going to be greater than 1, and the value of e is also going to be greater than 3. Okay, so if I have to bring them in the same scale, they are ratios in different scales. Please understand, if I give you a question where, let's say I give you this, that a is to b is 2 is to 3 and b is to c is also 2 is to 3, we can bring them in the same scale by multiplying, making the common element same, right? We can do that, right? We do that in ratio and proportion. So again, here we can't bring them in the same scale because there's nothing common between them. But I know for sure that y is greater than z. That means if I were to bring them in the same scale, I can say that if these are 2 and 1, value of y is going to be 1 plus, and value of e is going to be 3 plus for sure. So that is what the ratio is going to be if I combine all of them. Is that inference clear to all of you? If that inference is clear, please say a yes. If anyone has a problem with that inference, let me know, because this inference is very critical, and I recommend you to draw this inference before you jump into the questions. I did exactly that when I was solving this for the first time, and that holds the clue to solve the question. Now, after this inference, the question is a cakewalk. Let's read this. Yali is older than Wahida. Can I say y is older than Wahida? Could be, may not be. It is possible that y could be more than 2, 3, 4, whatever, or it could just be 1.001 or 1.1 or 1.2. It could be a very small number, basically. So I don't know whether Yali is older than Wahida. I can't say it's correct. I can't say it's incorrect. Incorrect means it has to be false, right? Now, if I look at the second one, Wahida is older than Yali. Can I say that? Definitely no, because again, Wahida is 2, Yali is 1 plus. Now, is Yali gonna be 1 only? Is it gonna be less than 2? Maybe, may not be. It could be more than 2 as well. I cannot be 100% sure about that. Li is older than Wahida. That I can definitely say, because I know Li's value is 3 plus and Wahida is 2 in the best case scenario. Like that's fixed at 2 in the common ratio. So Li is definitely older than Wahida. So that is what is definitely correct, guys. Okay. Now, among the 4, Yali is older than only Jack. Among the 4, Yali is older than only Jack. I can say Yali is older than Jack, but can I say it's only older than Jack? Again, that's wrong, because that is same as one of the ways of saying that Yali is older than Wahida or not. If I can't infer about that, I can't infer about this either. That leaves me with the last option, which has to be the correct, like incorrect answer, because that's the only one remaining. But yes, let's still validate it. Wahida is the oldest among the 4. Clearly not. Wahida is clearly not the oldest. The oldest is LA, right? So my answer is C and E, basically. Got it, guys? And if you notice again in this question, inferencing is super critical. If you draw the right inferences and you have conceptual clarity on the concept of ratios. Again, I'm not talking about basic understanding of ratios. I'm talking about conceptual clarity. If you have both these skills, if you are patient enough, if you stay calm, draw these inferences, this question is a cakewalk for you. It will not take more than 2.5 minutes to solve this question. Otherwise, you might still get this wrong, no matter how much time you spend on it. Okay, so strategize before you solve. That's also very, very, very important. In this question, I did not jump into solving. I strategized that, okay, I'll bring the ratios, all the ratios in a single comparison, in a single tile, so that I can draw the inferences. So that strategy helped me draw certain inferences, and that with my conceptual clarity, all those things helped me get the question correct. Okay, with that, let's get into question number 4. Now, this is another interesting question, another question which actually focuses on the reading part, the strategizing part, the inferencing part, all of those things. Let's do this. So an engineering firm is organized so that each of its T team leaders, so there are T team leaders, and each one of them, let's say these are the team leaders, okay, there could be more, manage exactly P managers. So this person has P managers, like managers, 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 managers. There could be more, but each one of them have P managers, exactly P managers. And each manager has exactly D designers. So each manager has then designers, then designers, then designers. So it's like that. That's like the hierarchy. Now, they say if P is equal to 4. Now, what does P equal to 4 mean? A lot of people, when they read P equal to 4, they think they are talking about there being only 4 managers in the entire company. Not really. It says that the firm has P team leaders, and each team leader manages exactly P managers. That means that if there are like 2 team leaders, then the number of managers is 2 into 4, 8. If there are 3 team leaders, then each of them have 4 managers, project managers. So that is the number of project managers total at 12. Okay. Now the inference that I can draw from this is that the number of designers have to be a multiple. The number of designers in the company has to be a multiple of D into P into T, basically. Okay, so it has to be a multiple of these 3, right? That's the number of designers, because each team member has P managers, and P managers each have D designers. So that's the final value. Now, the question is asking me a combination of team leaders and designers. Now, if I observe closely, I know my designers are going to be a multiple of P and T, and I know P is already 4. So obviously has to be, the number of designers has to be a multiple of 4. So you can look at the numbers which are not multiples of 4 and kick them out. But the way I look at it is that if I see the team leaders as 3, let's assume the team leaders to be 3. So this is an estimation question. So in a TPA estimation question, it is very important that you don't randomly start with anything. Start in a strategic fashion. So the strategy that I take is I'll start with team leaders. Why? Because if I start with team leaders, it will help me understand that designers should be a multiple of what? Not just 4. For example, if I start with team leaders is equal to 3, then I know that my number of designers has to be a multiple of 3 into 4. Designers has to be a multiple of 3 into 4, which is 12. Now, I don't see any other number which is a multiple of 12 here, right? So team leaders can't be 3. Now, I'll go to 4. If I take team leaders as 4, then the number of designers has to be a multiple of 16. Okay, and I see this number is a multiple of 16. So team leaders can be 4 and this can be 112. In fact, after that, I don't need to check as I have the answer already. But the reason I picked team leaders is because only small numbers for team leaders will work. If I take very big numbers for team leaders, the total number of people designers required will be pretty high, and I don't see very high numbers over here. In fact, if you look at 18 into 4, the next number, which you don't have to check by the way, you need a multiple of 72, which is not there. It is just bigger and bigger numbers will be required. But anyway, coming back to it, strategize. Don't try to like plug 2 values, take 2 values and just solve it. Strategize as to which one in an estimation question should you pick. Just pick one of them and stick to it. Okay. So this is again a question which tests you on strategizing. Now let's look at this question. Another interesting question I like. This is again a non-math verbal critical reasoning type of question. Very important to read it right. So let's get into the reading part of it. Okay. So let me just focus on the reading part first. I'm getting the options away from here. So automotive marketing consultant, he's saying small hybrid vehicles, while very fuel efficient. Okay, so again, I'll note down in a tabular fashion. So it says small hybrid vehicles. Let me write hybrid and small maybe, yeah, whatever. Okay, are fuel efficient and suitable for long travels, basically, but often do not have powerful performance. So performance, they don't have. Handling, possibly they don't have. Enough, like poor. Like cross is poor. I'm not saying it's not there. And tech means have decent, efficient, and decent. Okay, please understand that's my own lingo. That's my understanding. I'm not saying tech mark means it's there and cross means it's not there. It's strong and poor. I'm just not writing strong and poor. On the other hand, premium luxury cars. Okay, so we're talking about premium luxury cars burn more fuel, so they are not as fuel efficient. Cross doesn't mean there is no fuel efficiency. Obviously, they're not as fuel efficient and offer superior handling. So handling is better. thrilling driving experience. So again, driving experience could be related to performance, but let me take as a different category. We should therefore be able to make a prediction about the preferences of individual car buyers. Okay, so he's talking about a prediction that can be made about the preference of car buyers based on their car buying patterns. So if we know what kind of cars they buy, we can know a prediction. Now the question is asking us, basically, the consultant suggests that prediction about individuals can be based upon patterns of those individuals, indicate what is a prediction and a pattern. Now, if you have solved this question, you would have understood over here in this particular question that people who buy small hybrid vehicles, the way to think here is people who buy small hybrid vehicles, they actually give more importance to fuel efficiency and your long travel, and people who buy premium vehicles, they give more preference to handling and driving experience. Okay, now if I look at the columns here, I see that they are talking, one of the options is talking about luxury cars and small hybrid vehicles, so they belong to the same category. So knowing that can help me do something. But what is the prediction or something else, like what can I conclude from it? The individual does not commute to work. Not really, they're not talking about commuting to work. Possibly both vehicles can be used for it, that is out of the scope. The individual values fuel efficiency, definitely that is true for small hybrid vehicles, people who want take small hybrid vehicles. The next one is the individual is more wealthy than the average person. Now can I conclude about this that they are buying luxury cars? Not necessarily. If they're more wealthy, I cannot be 100% sure whether they are buying premium cars. They could still be buying hybrid vehicles. I don't know that. It's not written anywhere. So those two definitely are out of scope. Definitely not my answers. So people who value fuel efficiency will be the ones basically who will be buying the small hybrid vehicles. Now I know that my answer are these two. But another problem which happens in TPA is which column to fix where. Because sometimes people get the right answer, but they pick the wrong column. They pick the reverse order. So what is a pattern and what is a prediction? Now tell me how many of you were confused about this when you were doing the question. If you're confused about this, let me know in the chat, guys. I see a completely silent chat. I hope all of you are able to hear me properly. I've been speaking for the last 30 minutes, but I hope you are able to understand all of this properly. My video is going on. I check that on YouTube. So yes, guys, if you face a challenge with this, what should I pick in prediction? What should I pick in pattern? Do let me know in the chat. I'm more than happy to like answer that for you. But I had that doubt in my mind, like, okay, what is the prediction? What is the pattern? I was a little confused at that stage. But whenever you are confused in a TPA question, always remember the clue is gonna be there in the question itself. Okay, the question itself is gonna clarify which of the columns is the right answer. Now, if you look at this question very clearly, they are saying they make a prediction about the preferences based on their car buying patterns. So the patterns are related to car buying. Okay, so the pattern should be that the individual buys small hybrid vehicles. They're very clearly saying car high buying patterns. So Ravneet, if you chose the reverse option, again, this is what you need to keep in mind in TPA. I'm always conscious when I'm picking the answers in the TPA, whether I'm picking the right columns or not. I just keep that consciously in my mind. And I thought, okay, I can pick just any one of the two, but what should I pick in prediction? What should I pick in pattern? Then I just look at the question. I read the question. I saw that they were very clearly mentioning car buying patterns. So what should go in pattern? The individual who buys small hybrid vehicles. The people who buy that, I can predict about them that they value fuel efficiency more. Understood? That's what is needed. Now, when I work with my students at GMAT Viz, I make sure I teach them these techniques that understand these small things. There are these traps that GMAT sets, and these are important skills that you need to develop. When you're confused in a TPA, how do you resolve that confusion? One of the best ways to do so is address the confusion right away. Don't let the confusion snowball into a bigger thing for yourself. Okay, the question will hold the clue. Okay, these are important skills that you need to build, and trust me, even these simple questions you can go wrong if you're not focused enough. Got it? Now let's go to this next question. Now this question is another interesting question. This is a question which is based on an official question. I'll talk about this. Uh, just give me one more second. Need to sip another glass of water. Not having the best, let's say, like health right now, but let's see. Sorry guys, so let's come back to this. Now this is a very interesting question. Now most of you have already solved this, so I'm not going to give you more time to solve. But if you notice in this question, it very clearly says this month the store raised the price of each widget to. The word to in this question is the entire reason why this question is actually a 705 level question. This is based on an official question, not an official question, but this is based on an official question. Most of the people, when they read this question, and tell me, guys, if you also did the same mistake while solving it, most of the people read this as by, raised by. Again, logically, most of you, if you have to talk about an increase, you will say increased by or raised by. You'll not say increased to or raised to. But that's what GMAT is doing to you. They know that you are taking the test under pressure, and they want to see how well can you perform under pressure, how focused can you be under pressure, because that's a trademark of a strong manager. They can remain calm under the most stressful situations. So they're trying to test that through the questions also. So they're trying to see whether you read with focus, and that's why I was telling you initially, focused reading is super important in TPA. Never make a mistake of not doing that. If you don't read with focus, if you read this with the word by, raised by, you'll not get the answer. But if you read it right, it's a cakewalk. This question is a cakewalk. It just says the store raised the price to X% of the original price. So if I assume the price to be P, you can assume it to be 100 also. I'm a big fan of that. But again, I'm just taking P in this case. Then it became P into X by 100 now. So this was the old, this is the new price, and the old price was P. So this is price, okay? But sold only Y% as many widgets as last month. So this is quantity. So last month the quantity was Q. Okay, this month the quantity is only Y% of Q. As a result, the total revenue was same in both the months. If the total revenue was same, I can say that P into Q is same as P into X by 100 into Q into Y by 100. I can cancel the P and Q's, and I will get X into Y is 100 into 100, which is 10,000. Okay, so first and foremost thing in this question is to read it right. Read with focus. Make sure that you read it as to, not by, and don't make that mistake. Don't fall into that trap. That is super critical. Second mistake, which many people make, once they see xy is equal to 10,000, they start picking two pairs of x and y from the options and start seeing which one of this two will, when multiplied, become 10,000. That is wrong, guys. You should not do that, because if you start doing that, understand, you can have different combinations. You might have 6 into 6, total 36 possible combinations for the values of xy. You can't just do that. It will just burn you out a lot. You'll consume a lot more energy and waste a lot more time. Instead of that, when you're doing estimation, always do strategize. So I know that the store raised the price to X%. That means X should be more than 100. So I know X is here and Y is here, because Y is, they only sold Y% visits. That means they sold lesser visits most likely. But I for sure know X is below more than 100. So what you should do, instead of picking values of X and Y together, just pick one value. Just pick X as 125, okay? And then put it back into that equation and get the value of Y from there. Okay, just you do that. You have a calculator in DI, you don't have to worry about that. Punch in the numbers on the calculator if you don't like manual calculations. This one, I'm good with the math. I can right away say it's 80, because 125 into 8 is 1000. You want to use the calculator, feel free to do that. So I know X is 125, Y is 80. Okay, now if this value of X, 125, hadn't given me an answer, then I would go to 160. I'll just plug in 160 and see what do I get as Y. If that was there in the options, I'll pick that. Otherwise, I'll move to 250. So the idea is you only pick one value at a time if there's an estimation question in TPA. Never pick both values at the same time. That's the biggest mistake you can make. You will end up losing a lot of time. And trust me, guys, I work with many, many students many of my students have achieved great success, and I've seen some of the smartest people also make this mistake of picking both values of x and y at the same time. Don't make that mistake, guys. Only pick one value in the case of estimation. Okay, so you see, focused reading is super critical. If you read it as raised by, you will get this question wrong. And the official question this question is based on, in that question, you won't just get it wrong. You'll not even see an answer matching. And that's even worse, because you will write down the equation, none of the answers will match. You'll waste 3 minutes, you'll get confused, you'll recheck the equation, you'll recheck your calculations, you'll end up burning 7-8 minutes on a very straightforward question just because you did not read the word to, you read it as by. So don't read the questions fast. In TPA, please understand these are very important skill sets that you need to develop to get the TPA questions correct. Okay, guys, now let's get to the next non-math question. Again, this is a puzzle, basically. So let's solve this together. I've just created some extra space here. So let's see that. So A, B, C, D, E, F are positioning themselves on a flight of 6 steps for a picture. So there are 6 steps basically that I have to imagine visually. I can possibly write them down if you want to look at it that way. There are 6 steps. Daryl and Edgar will be on consecutive steps, but not necessarily in that order. That means it could be DE, it could be ED. But this doesn't tell me where they are on the stairs. So I'm not going to place that right away. I'm going to just keep it in my mind that they're always going to be together in any order. Okay. Bailey will be 2 steps below Ariel. So Bailey is 2 steps below Ariel means there is 1 person between both of them. That's what it means, right? Because if it is saying 1 step below, that will be right below. But there's 1 person in between. Now, if I combine the first information and second information, one thing that I can say for sure is that this pair DE cannot fit between A and B. So it will be either on top or on bottom of A and B. Understand that? That is very important. So I know that DE is either going to be on top of AB or bottom of AB. It can't sit in between them. Faye will be in the step 3rd from the bottom. So I know for sure that Faye is here. Now, if F is here, I know F is here for sure. Then let's try to build the combinations possible. So I know the order of A and B. That is what I want to start with because they give me information about 3 things, basically 3 steps. So A and B have a single space between them. Now, I can place them here, correct? I can do that. That's one possibility. Let's take another possibility. Can I place A in the 2nd position? I can't, because if I place A in the 2nd position, then B has to be in the position of F. That can't happen. So A then can be placed over here, and then B can go over here. Now I cannot place A in the place of B, F as well. So these are the only 2 possibilities of placing A and B. Okay. Now what about DE? So DE will either be in this order or this order, one of the 2. Okay, in this case. So C will go over here. Similarly, in this case, DE will only sit on the top, either in this order or that order. So C goes on the bottom. So I have all my combinations here. Simple now. Okay, so I'll have to see where Bailey can sit. So Bailey can be either 2nd step from the bottom, 2nd step from the bottom, 2nd step from the bottom, and 3rd step from the top, 3rd step from the top. So Bailey, this one will fit for Bailey, right? That is my answer for Bailey. Now let's look at C. C is the 2nd question. So C will be either on the 2nd from the top or the bottom. 2nd from the top or the bottom. Yeah, so this one. So that's my answer. So in a puzzle-based question, try to solve the entire puzzle and you'll never have issues. Okay. Now let's look at another example of conceptual clarity. So the last question, which is a math-based question, 8 to 5 level question, the most difficult one, which is there. This will be a very simple question. If you know the concept of alligation. So what this question first tells you is there are 2 alloys being mixed, alloy X and alloy Y, to get alloy Z. Okay. Now in this alloy, the copper concentration in alloy X is 25% and this one is 65%. When they are mixed together, in Z, you will have a certain composition or concentration of copper. Now, those of you know the concept of alligation or mixtures, whatever you want to call it, they know that the weighted average or the weighted concentration, the total mixtures concentration, is actually dependent on the ratio of X and Y. So if the ratio of X and Y, let's say, I'm just taking a random example, if the ratio here is 2:3, the difference between these two will be 3:2. As in, the weighted average will be the difference of weighted average from the 25 and 65 is going to be in the ratio 3:2. It's there in the opposite ratio. That's the concept basically. Okay. Again, I'm not going to teach you that concept today in the class because the session is not to teach the concept. But if you want to learn it, this is something we teach in our GMAT modules as well. And a lot of people talk about this. This is called the alligation method. So if you know the alligation method, this will be a cakewalk. So question is asking me for the composition, the concentration of copper, which is this one, and the percentage of alloy X. Okay. Now, what I can do in this case strategically is I know that composition of copper is going to be between 25 and 65. It can't be 25 because then 25 will happen only if there is no alloy Y, and it can't be 75 or 65 either because it has to be between the two. So the only options which will work for the final answer for Z, concentration of copper in Z, is 20, 35, 50 or 60. So my strategy is to place one of them at a time. So I'll place 35% first, and I'll see what is the ratio of X and Y coming out to be. So if I know that, if I see the difference between 25 and 35 here is 10, and the difference between 35 and 65 is 30. So this ratio is 1:3, sorry. That means the ratio in which they would have been mixed is 3:1. Now, if the ratio of mixing X and Y is 3:1, then percentage of alloy X in Z would be 3/4, right? Because it mixed in the ratio 3:1, then X is 3/4 of Z. 3/4 is nothing but 75%, and I see that in the option. So this one is my answer. Okay. Had this not matched, then I would have placed 50% as the weighted average and found out the ratio. Okay, guys. So again, if you have conceptual clarity, you will not have any challenges in this question. And these are the skills which are super important to do TPS. Trust me, TPS could be very simple if you do focused reading, if you draw the right inferences, and you are strategizing how do I go about solving it. Don't rush into just putting in random numbers, because you could see today also there were so many estimation based questions. You will get estimation based questions in TPA. Don't just randomly put numbers. Try to understand which route you need to take. Like you could see today that I was taking a certain route for every question. I was strategizing before every question, and this is an art that you need to learn. And not just for TPA, strategizing is a very important skill in most of the data insights question and even quant questions for that matter. So make sure you develop the strategies, and if you do that, you will always find things very, very easy. Okay. Now, if you have any other questions, feel free to ask me right now. You can ask me the questions, or you can just text me on my WhatsApp number. If you want to speak to me directly and understand, if you want my help in your GMAT preparation, I also help people with the GMAT preparation through one-on-one tutoring. You can reach out to me. I'll give you a link also to connect with me or my team. And if you have any other questions right now about your GMAT prep, DI specifically in particular, or TPA, feel free to ask me. I'm more than happy to pick that up. And I will also try and give you the link for the timing strategy session where I talk about the pacing strategy for the data insight, like not just the data insight, the entire section of like GMAT. I'll just try to pick that out. Just give me 1 second, guys. I'm going to pick it out. But if you have any questions in the meantime, please feel free to ask me. I'm happy to take it up for you. Okay. Just finding that link. Yeah, here it is. I have gotten the link. I'll just place it in the chat here, guys. So do watch this video. So if you want to understand the test taking strategy and other aspects basically of the algorithm. Okay, guys. So I hope all of you enjoyed the session. You had a lot of lessons around how to tackle TPS. So all the best from my side. I don't see any questions. So I hope all of you enjoyed the session and got some lessons out of it. Make sure you implement them on TPA, and trust me, DI can be conquered. We have helped a lot of students improve on DI. You can also improve it. Just do the right things. That's all you need to do. Understand where you're going wrong, take action on it, and it will work out. Okay. So all the best, guys, for your GMAT prep, and we'll see you soon again. Thank you so much.